why am I always constantly wanting more? Are you heading towards burnout?
We are addicted to this ambitious feeling.
The Type A Trap's Erin Stafford is on intentional living to cut through the overwhelm.
Can we just all agree that we're all tired and we're all busy? Like, this doesn't have to be a race to the bottom.
Bring more balance to your day.
You're an adult. You can just straight up cancel plans if you don't want to do that.
And ultimately, help us craft a life we love while still embracing that achievement high.
Sometimes the most insignificant little things are the things that eat away at your soul. So it's like, can you just reorganize this cupboard so it's less annoying?
Because let's face it, we all love a good to-do list cross off. And it gives me so much pleasure just to mark those things, little line.
I will write things down on the to-do list that I already accomplished just so that I can cross them off and make myself feel
my goodness, I've done that too.
I'm going to take the win where I can.
On an all-new Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. Welcome to Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers, a podcast dedicated to those seeking a more fulfilled and purposeful life through thought-provoking conversation, spiritual exploration, and authentic connections. The intentional movement has begun, and if you found yourself here, you are a part of it. Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers starts now. Hi, Erin. Welcome to Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. I am so honored that we get to connect today and talk about everything Type A. I did not mean to rhyme that, but it is rhyming. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Of course. Well, I am going to jump into a topic with you that you are very knowledgeable about, and I'm curious about, and we are going to hit a couple of, I think, big buzzwords right now. We're going to talk about boundaries, burnout. We're going to talk about balance, all these three things that are really big topics.
Yeah.
But I think are really actually kind of like foreign to anyone experiencing them. Mm-hmm. It's like a foreign language to me. I'm like you. Yeah. I know you are almost recovered Type A, I would say, probably. I don't think I'm even close to recovered. Yeah. And so those words, it's like speaking a foreign language to me. So why is that? The people that are in this Type A mentality, we don't know anything about this.
It's hard. We're born this way. Lady Gaga says, I was born this way. If Gaga says it, it must be true, right?
Yes.
Most people that are Type A are absolutely born Type A. And it can also get progressively worse as we get older sometimes. And there are a lot of things that can contribute to it. I know for myself, I was absolutely born Type A, born mature, as my mom always says. I was always really motivated, driven. But in doing all this work and this research, I've had to do a lot of self-reflection and a lot of inner work and addressing the things that we don't always want to address. And I've realized that a lot of it also started when I was young. So I had a brother, still have a brother. I don't know why I said had, but still have a brother who was the hot guy in school. Mm. So every girl wanted to date him. Every guy wanted to be him. And I was just his ugly little sister, or at least that's how I felt. Okay. And so from a very early age, I was oh, well, I'll just outperform him. I'll get better grades. I'll have a better job. I'll make more money. I'll do more. I'll go to a better college. I'll have a better this. I'll be better that, And so they're very much, that definitely added fuel to the already burning fire of Type A-ness inside me, So it's interesting how some of these things that happen in our childhood definitely affect how we continue to perform. And I still, even though I've totally outperformed my brother, and God bless him, he's doing great, but I still am wanting to achieve more and do more. And another thing I found really recently, I just recently did the Hoffman process, which is this whole week-long off the grid process where you're really doing a lot of inner work. And I came to the realization, which is not really something I love to admit, but it's true, that a lot of my workaholicism, a lot of this Type A personality, this desire to constantly achieve and achieve and achieve, it's really rooted in ego. Yeah. It makes me feel good about myself that I've done more than you. And I'm ew, I don't want to be that person. Mm-hmm. But when I really did the deep reflecting, I'm yeah, so much of my ego is involved in this. It makes me feel good to keep achieving and accomplishing. And then I also realized that there was a lot of scarcity mindset in that as well, where it's like, oh, I have to keep doing this. I have to keep working, getting that better gig, that better client, that better job, because there's not enough to go around, or maybe I won't get it next time. And so it's just interesting. The deeper and deeper I go into this work and into this research and diving deep into myself, doing the inner work that we don't really want to do or admit, is realizing that it's really rooted in kind of these three things, like feeling like I need to outperform my brother, my ego, and scarcity mindset. And so I feel like this may resonate with some people that may not have connected those dots.
Oh my goodness. It's just kind of like you're hitting every note for me. I'm just kind of like, yes, 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 yes. Where's my checklist? Even though, I mean, it's like being type A. I even remember as a kid, like I didn't want to be called anything other than type A. It's like a badge of honor.
Why would you
like,
want that?
Why would you not want? Yeah. And like, even in my relationships now, even with my husband, I am competitive in that way. It's like, well, I was up till 2 a.m. and I took care of the kids and I did the dishes and I did this. And it's like, is this a competition? Like, why were you up till 2 a.m?
Are constantly competing for who's more tired and who's busier.
Seriously,
I'm like,
why?
Can we just all agree that we're all tired and we're all busy? Like, this doesn't have to be a race to the bottom.
No. And the ego stuff and the scarcity stuff, like all of that. I mean, are those, do you see from your research, just like the main ingredients to really like create these type A adults?
I mean, I think it's definitely part of it, but I also think that we live in a society that really applauds people for burning the candle at both ends, that really rewards people for burning out. As terrible as that sounds, it's true. You know, we look at people that are doing it all and they work so hard and gosh, they're putting in the long hours and they never take a break. And we reward people for that. We idolize them for that. And the people that look like they've got it all together, those are the ones you need to be most worried about, because I guarantee you things are falling apart in their personal life or in their health 100%. So it's hard. We live in a society that rewards this behavior. And then if we've already got these other underlying things, we just keep doing more and more. I mean, it's not ambition, it's addiction. Like we are addicted to this ambitious feeling, this feeling of achieving and accomplishing and doing. The problem is, as I'm sure you've heard before, you know, we just keep moving the goalposts. We're never actually happy, because once we get that next thing, all of a sudden we're like, okay, what's next? What's the bigger thing? What's the better thing? How do I outachieve myself now? And I don't know about you, but I have this like sick, twisted element to myself that like, I just love setting a goal that feels so daunting and then like doing it. And I will freaking figure out a way. I am a resourceful chick and I am resilient and tenacious. And I am like, I will figure out a way to freaking do this and be so proud of myself afterwards and like look back and be like, how the hell did I do that? I don't know how I did that, but I managed to make it happen. And it's addicting. Like it's so addicting.
So addicting. Good. It's so addicting. Like I seriously will brag to people. Oh, well, I was on set until 3 a.m. getting this out. And then I drove back from LA to San Diego at 3 a.m. and I got up and got 6 a.m. and turned around and came back. Like, I think that's cool. Like, why? And every morning I'll wake up with my to-do list and it like gives me so much pleasure just to mark those things, that little line through.
I will write things down on the to-do list that I already accoposed just so that I can cross them off and make myself feel like
I've done that too. I've done that too.
I still do it.
But like, how do we get to a place where enough is enough? I actually heard my husband was relaying, he was listening to a conversation. I was between Matthew Hussey and I think Ed Milet. I'm not sure, but he was listening to a conversation talking about like, do we ever find this happiness or like this, what is it enough? I had a boyfriend say this to me in my 20s and it really stuck with me. And I think 2 of our friends had moved in together. Another one had gotten engaged and this and that. And we were just in a great place. Everything was good. And I just couldn't get out of my head. Like, well, when are we doing this? When is it like, I had my laundry list of like all these accomplishments that we needed to make. And it wasn't going that way, that fast, as I wanted it to. And he looked at me and he's like, are you ever just happy? Like, when is it just going to be enough? And granted, that relationship wasn't the relationship for me, but that stuck with me. It's like, why am I always constantly wanting more? Is there ever going to, especially for people like us, going to be that moment where it's just kind of like, I'm good?
Yeah. The reality is probably not, but we can get better at it. So just like diet and exercise, I mean, I feel like I use diet and exercise as a common metaphor because I feel like people understand that. Like we don't get to just eat well one day and exercise like a maniac one day, and all of a sudden we're in great shape and we never have to work out or eat well again. No, like that's not how it works. You have to do it every single day and make it a lifestyle for the rest of your life if you want to be healthy. And it's very similar to preventing and overcoming burnout. There are small little changes and shifts and mindset shifts and tools that we need to use throughout our days for the rest of our lives to kind of keep ourselves in check. And just like with diet and exercise, cutting out alcohol, great, that's healthy, but that's also not going to, completely change your life. Or just going gluten-free or, exercising 4 days a week. Like those are all wonderful benefits, but like one of the in and of themselves is not going to change everything. And so it's very similar to preventing and overcoming burnout. There are all of these small little shifts, little mindset shifts, little tools, little pivots that we can do throughout our days and our weeks that just kind of keep us on track and keep us content with where we are, keep us from burning out, and also keep us from constantly like living in the future of I'll be happy when. So it's not one thing. And it's also not something that like we just fix once and then we're done and it's great,
Yeah. So what are those shifts?
Yeah, particularly if you are a high achiever that works long hours and things like that. Like it's not practical or feasible to think that you're going to go from working 60 hours a week to all of a sudden working 30 hours a week, taking a 2-hour lunch break, having a 3-hour morning routine that involves meditating and getting red light therapy and your sauna and your cold plunge and journaling and all the things, the green juice, that's not feasible. So it's like, take a realistic look at your life. And where can you start making some small little shifts? And eventually you gain a little bit of momentum and you add a few more. So one of the things that I love to talk about and love to implement is what I call the Coco Chanel takeoff. And I feel like this is like the starter version of trying to get a handle on your calendar. So Coco Chanel, obviously very famous French fashion designer behind the House of Chanel. She has this great quote where she talks about dressing with accessories. And she says, before you leave the house, take one thing off. Her point being less is more. I say before you start your week, take one thing off. What is it on your calendar is there just one thing that you can take off? Maybe this is the week that your kids carpool to soccer practice with somebody else. Maybe there is a call on there that could really be an email or a Zoom or a meeting that could really just be an email. And like, there's a million of those. Maybe you've already got plans 3 nights this week and it's giving you stress and anxiety because you're like, oh, this feels like too much already. Change one of those plans or cancel them. We always think we can't cancel plans. I'm like, no, I am giving you permission. You're an adult. You can just straight up cancel plans if you don't want to do that. So it's like, how can we just take one thing off of our calendar? Let's start there. Just start there. And slowly over time, it gets easier. Another thing I love to talk about is there's this great study out of the research firm Gartner, and they talk about proactive rest. And I love this notion because I think as overachievers, as type A's, as leaders, as busy professionals and parents, we think we have to be like on death's doorstep before we can take a break. Like we have to be dead on the ground before we deserve or have earned a break. And this study about proactive rest says, no, actually, we need to incorporate rest into our days and our weeks so that we can prevent exhaustion and prevent burnout in the first place. And so there are a jillion ways that this proactive rest can look. And what the study found is that people that actively take proactive rest, they have a 26% increase in their productivity. So it actually helps you perform better, which is so foreign to us that think we have to just keep doing. And so this can take a lot of different, it can look a lot of different ways. One being, maybe if you have run a team, maybe instead of 60-minute meetings, you have 50-minute meetings. Like give those people 10 minutes back in their day to go to the restroom, grab a bite to eat, go outside and get some sunlight on their face for 5 minutes, get a coffee. Maybe something that I did on my team when I was still working in corporate world, I had meeting-free Fridays because I don't know about you, but so often I am like on call after call after call, meeting, Zoom. And you get to Friday and all of a sudden you're like, I haven't done any work. Like I haven't done any of the stuff that I actually need to do because I've been on freaking calls and in meetings all week. And then you go into your weekend and you just have all this stress and this pressure on your shoulders that you then bring into the next week. So it was like, okay, let's just do meeting-free Fridays. Take that time to catch up on the week so that you can hopefully go into your weekend a little bit less stressed out and you can enjoy it a little bit more. So I could give you a million more examples, but there are so many different ways that we can incorporate proactive rest into our life to really help us like alleviate a little bit of this stress. Sorry, I have to blow my nose.
No, you're fine. I mean, literally, you saying these things is giving me anxiety. Like as, I mean, that's how far into it that I am, is that like the whole concept of taking that rest or taking something off of my list to do is just like, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that.
Start even smaller then. Commit to less to show up more. So maybe it starts with just turn the music off when you're in your car. Just turn the music off. Turn the music off. And don't get me wrong, I love to sing. So like my car is my private little recording studio, singing at the top of my lungs. But those, and I'm not talking about like a road trip, by all means, rock the music and have fun. I mean, those little jaunts to like the school drop off, the grocery store, the dry cleaner, the gym, the whatever. Those 10, 15-minute little trips in your car, don't put any music on. Just listen to the silence. And it's going to feel awkward AF at first, but like giving yourself those few minutes of just quiet will be incredible. And so like if all of this sounds too much, just start there. Turn the music off. When you go on a run or a walk or you're at the gym, don't listen to music. Just be in your thoughts. And you will find that it's probably going to be awkward at first, but like you will find that it's calming and it resets our nervous system. We are constantly bombarded by phone calls, emails, text messages, notifications. Or if you're like us, I think if I'm in the car, I got to be productive. So I need to be listening to a podcast or an audiobook and learning something, practicing my French, like whatever. But just turn the music off. Give yourself and your nervous system that moment to like just be quiet. And what you'll find is like ideas will bubble up that maybe you've been struggling with or a situation that you've kind of not been knowing how to address. Like all of a sudden you'll get these like ideas because your body finally has a minute to like calm the heck down, So if it all sounds too much, just start there. Like commit to less so that you can show up more.
Well, that's your intuition. That's letting your voice of your inner spirit come through when you actually get quiet. But the majority of us in this state, which I love that you brought up the idea or brought up the concept of it being a nervous system regulation thing, because I find that as type A'ers are very dysregulated. And being busy is our way of continuously keeping ourselves safe because this 100%. Is what we know. This is what's familiar. This is our routine, even if it's not good for us. And so often we don't want to change for the better because it's not familiar. And if we get quiet, then we have to listen to that inner self and that inner voice. Or I'm not talking about the ego and the inner critic. I'm talking about like, we have to listen to what's good for us, what's right for us, what's aligned for us. And we may not like those answers. So if we just keep staying busy and doing and achieving, then we can just muscle our way into the best life ever, which is a load of crap.
Well, and also it begs the question of like, what are you avoiding? This is another thing that I discovered when I was doing the Hoffman process is like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm working all the time. And it's very easy to say, oh, so I can't do that. I'm working, or I can't, I'm busy. I have a call. I have a meeting. I have a work trip. I have a this, I have a that. What are you avoiding? Like, are there conversations you're not having with your partner because you're busy and you've got to work and you actually just don't want to address that? Are there parenting issues that you're not dealing with because it's just easier to say, I'm working, I'm busy, I have a meeting, I have a call? Like, it's a rude awakening when we start looking at ourselves and realizing like, why am I doing this? Why do I keep saying I'm working? Why do I just put so much on my plate? What am I not dealing with? What am I avoiding?
Well,
that's crap nobody wants to admit, but it's the truth, when you really want to get to the bottom of this.
It is the total truth. But what's interesting is though, even talking about this, doing the inner work, like you're saying, going through even like doing the Hoffman process or getting quiet, all this stuff requires, which almost seems like an oxymoron here. It requires someone being a kind of a type A person that's willing to put themselves through the discomfort of doing the work. Because I don't think if you're just a let's go with the flow kind of person, that you're really going to go seek these answers or go in and dive deep and try and understand why you're doing this stuff. So it's like, how do we balance this whole like type A personality and like wanting to fix it? Because I think we can create that type A in healing ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, but other people that are not type A, they have other issues that they're working on and that they need to work on, So what I've learned in my 43 years of life is nobody gets a free ride. Like, we are all dealing with crap. It is just different crap. Yeah. Every single person has stuff that they are dealing with, whether it's family, financial, relationships, health, career. Like, we are all dealing with stuff. It's just a different flavor of stuff for everyone. So no one gets a free ride. And just because you're not type A doesn't mean you don't have stuff that you need to work on, as we all know. But where was I going with this? My ADHD has kicked in and now I'm like, what was the question?
Well, it was more about just,
point, damn it.
Yeah. No, but like being a type A person, it almost feels like you have to be a type A person to do this work to resolve your type A personality.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of resolving it, because if you look at some of the best leaders and entrepreneurs in the world and biggest celebrities, recording artists, like so many of them are type A. So it's not that it's a bad thing. I mean, there is so much about being type A that helps us be successful and helps leaders and entrepreneurs create and have the tenacity and the resilience and the drive to create incredible things that move the world forward. So it's not about changing ourselves and not being type A and trying to beat it out of ourselves. It's how do we find some level of equilibrium or balance between wanting to continue to achieve and at the highest levels and thrive, but do it in a way where we're not burning ourselves out and hurting ourselves and our families and our friendships along the way. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And the reality is there are going to be times where you're in a sprint where that for the next 3 weeks or the next 6 weeks, like this is going to be a balls to the wall, crazy, run for the roses, like sprint. But then how do you make up for that afterwards? How do you make some changes afterwards? Allow yourself some time off, change your schedule. Like one thing that I've done, which has taken a lot of work, is it sounds so stupid to even admit, but like it really took a lot for me to do this, was like, I don't book any meetings before 10 a.m. and I don't book them after 4 p.m. That's not to say I'm not working during those times, but I used to, like, if somebody wanted a meeting with me, I'd be like, oh, here's every possible moment of my life that you could book a meeting with me. And the reality is it's like stressful. I have stuff I need to do in the morning. I want to work out. I want to eat well. I want to have time to do my emails. Like I want to have time to do certain things. I don't want to have to be like up, showered, camera ready, all by 9 a.m. Or 8:30 or 8, whatever, and that's not, again, it's not to say I'm not working during that time. I just don't want to have to be like camera ready and on where I'm like dialed in. I want to like ease into my day a bit more. And so, I don't book any meetings before 10 a.m. And you know what? Nothing's changed. Like the world didn't end. Everyone can still book meetings with me. Like my life has not changed. I am not losing out on gigs and money and sales. Like it's okay. And it's so much nicer because now I don't feel like I ever have to like rush out of bed and like jump in the shower and get myself ready. Like, so just like some small little shifts like that can really help us put a life together that's a little less stressful.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you're saying that. I've realized that just probably in the last couple of weeks, I started thinking about it. It's like, same thing. I have my calendar open. Like, when do you want a meeting? And then finally it was just like, okay, this is between having the young kids, my husband working at home, I'm working at home, running multiple businesses. Like there's just too much going on. I'm like, okay, if I get one like booking a day, I'm going to block off the rest of the day so I can handle what else I need to do. When my kids are both in school next year, then maybe I can take on 2 or 3. But like, I don't need to go back to back. And for the longest time, I've thought like, oh my goodness, I need to get up earlier and work early. And I did while I was on set places that I had ungodly hours. But now as I'm like working for myself, I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? I am not a morning person. Like, it's okay. I don't have to have some 4-hour morning routine starting at 5 a.m. And I can have a leisurely morning because I don't mind working later at night. And that's okay for me.
Like, there are days where you're going to push harder and days where you're not going to push as hard. I mean, even this morning, I was wrestling with this because I've had a cold for the last few days. I'm not feeling 100%. Yeah. And yet I still have this notion in my head where like, I have to be at my desk by 9 o'clock at the latest. I have to be at my desk at 9 o'clock. And I'm like, I freaking work for myself. Like, and yes, I have a lot of work to do right now. Like, thank God my business is going well. I have plenty of work. Like, this is a great problem to have. But like the psycho in me is like, you have to be at your desk by 9 o'clock at the latest. And I'm like, I've been sleeping in lately because I haven't been feeling well and I haven't been sleeping super well at night. And I'm like, Jesus, Erin, give yourself a break. Like nobody is keeping track of when you're at your desk. Like the work will get done. You're obviously under the weather. Like your body needs the rest. Just chill the F out and like sleep in. It's okay. But like I was literally talking myself through this morning. So
it doesn't go away. So how do we start to give ourselves that grace to create some sort of balance? Because in my opinion, it just seems like balance is unattainable. And maybe it's just because the season of life I'm in with, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Like,
that makes it a little bit different, I think. And so maybe balance looks different in different seasons, but like how
100%.
Is that what it is? Because it's like, is this actually something real?
Balance absolutely looks different in different season. And when you have young kids, all bets are off. All bets are off. You're in full blown survival mode and God bless you if you make it through the day. So, give yourself some grace on that. But I have a burnout assessment. So I have a bunch of free resources on my website, erinstafford.com. There's a resource tab. You can click on that. You put your info in, and then there's like a bunch of free resources. But one of the things that I have on there is a burnout assessment. And it helps assess 6 different areas of your life. So health, work, faith, spirituality, family and friends, finances, and fun. And so it just asks you a number of questions and gives you a really good gauge on where you may be struggling, because obviously we can all improve all different areas of our lives, but this makes it pretty clear which area maybe you should address first. Because again, commit to less to show up more. So it's like, we don't have to fix everything at once. My dad always says, you don't have to boil the ocean, just one pot at a time. I'm like, okay, Dad, God bless him.
I love that.
He has so many random one-liners. They crack me up. But like, we don't have to fix everything at once. So it's like, do the assessment. What area of your life are you struggling with most? Start there. Just make a small little pivot, a small little adjustment. One of the mindset shifts that I talk about is pivoting like a pro, because so often we as motivated, driven overachievers, like we think that we have to do everything that we've said we were going to do. And if we've
Yes.
set a goal or if we've told someone we were going to do something, like come hell or high water, we will figure out a way to make it happen and we will do it.
Mm-hmm.
But so often we end up going down these paths that like, we don't even want to be on anymore. We realize halfway through that we're like, why am I doing? I don't even like this. Like, why am I killing myself to achieve this thing that I don't even want anymore? You know, because we don't want to be seen as quitters or we don't want to be seen as failing. But, you know, we have to start thinking about like failure or wasting time as a forward-looking problem, not a backward-looking one. So instead of thinking like, oh, well, I've already spent so much time or money doing this, I should keep going. No. Change the thinking to, why would I spend another dollar or another minute of my very short life doing something that I don't even want to do anymore? You know, what a waste that is. So how can we make small little pivots and changes in our lives to like get us back on track to something that actually lights us up and fills us up and brings us joy and fires us up instead of dragging us down and burning us out?
Do you see that as a problem more among adults of our generation versus the like our parents' generation? I was literally having this conversation at dance class for my daughter last night with one of the moms. And we were actually we were all kind of talking, our kids are all getting into like kindergarten age, our oldest. And we're kind of talking about the school system and what we're thinking and like how it's been created. And I'm really on this kick of like, you know, the school system was created during like the Industrial Revolution for people to punch their ticket. And like, it doesn't really suit what I think life is going towards and what I think life should be. And this constant pushing to achieve. And I even had that conversation with my mom. It really started when we were kids. It's like, well, my kid goes to this school or does this activity. This whole achievement thing really became a big deal. Yet now I find that we are in a series of adults that have been born and bred to like do all these careers that we don't necessarily want to do, chase these goals that we don't necessarily want or that aren't ours. And then we're facing things like burnout or just throwing our hands up. And like one of the moms, like I said, at dance last night was saying like I don't know if it was her brother or someone in her family, you know, $250,000, $400,000 in debt because he went through medical school and now he's in a band because he's like, screw that.
I don't want to do this.
I don't want to be a doctor. Like,
or like we teach kids
us?
all this random crap that they're never going to need to know. Like these stupid SAT questions of like, if the train leaves the station going this direction and the sun is hitting the barn at a 45-degree angle and the wind's coming in, how long is it going to take? You're like, I'm literally never going to need to know this. Why am I being tested on this?
Or we were even talking about like, the absentee, like if you want to take your kid to go to Europe so that they can experience another culture, you get penalized and you get called in front of the school board. Like, it's like, this is bullshit.
But like, and then you've got kids that graduate high school and finish college. They have no idea how to budget. They don't know anything about personal finance. They don't know anything about investing. They don't know anything about like how to balance. I want to say balance their checkbook. People don't do that anymore, but like how to like balance their budget and like, nobody knows how to do this stuff. And you have to just fumble your way through as an adult. No, I completely agree. I think there's so much that needs to be changed in our educational system. I don't have kids, so I'm not living in that world of having to deal with it. I'm just a byproduct of being a child of the 80s and 90s. But like, you know, I completely agree. We have people that are doing jobs. I mean, do you know a single lawyer that's happy in their job? No, I don't. I have so many friends that are lawyers. They're all freaking miserable, but they're like, well, I already spent 3 years in law school and I've got $1 jillion worth of debt and I make pretty good money. So I guess I have to keep being a lawyer. I'm like, what a shitty way to live your life. Like there's so many things that we could be doing that make us happy, but we feel like we have to be stuck. And that is one thing that I actually, this is probably going to be my next book, is talking about how do we reinvent ourselves without starting over again? Because I've been like the queen of reinventing myself. I've had like 7 or 8 different careers and I've never had to start from the bottom again. I've always been able to like parlay the knowledge that I've created and experience I've had in one career to like get me into the next career without starting at the very bottom again. And I think so many people, sorry, my nose keeps running.
No problem.
But like I think so many people think that they're stuck. They can't change. They have to just keep doing this thing they've been doing because they're making good money or they've reached a certain level. But like, we can change careers without having to start at the absolute bottom again. It's possible.
Yeah.
And you'll be so much happier. I mean, I had this conversation with my husband recently where like I quit my corporate job a year and a half ago. And I've been speaking full time and writing. I wrote my book and I've been speaking as a keynote speaker all over the country. It's North America, Canada, whatever. And I'm like so excited and fired up about it right now. And it's going well and I love it. My husband's like, well, he's running his business for 25 years. He goes, well, wait till you've been doing it for 25 years. Like, you're probably going to hate it. And I was like, here's the difference between you and I. I'm not going to do this for 25 years if I don't like it. I may only do this for one more year if it stops being fun. It may be 15 more years if I still love it and I'm enjoying it. It might be the rest of my life. Like, but I am not going to keep doing this if it's no longer teaching me something, exciting me, like providing a good income. Like, I'm not going to continue to do a career that is killing me. I'm just not.
I love that idea of the reinvention though. So, I mean, because I think we don't want to start over. You don't want to start at the beginning, for one, or you have to go out and take this huge risk to create your own business in what you were doing, which I mean, something that excites me, but you know, that doesn't everyone. And so you get stuck. I mean, we had this conversation, I think my brother-in-law and my husband had this conversation a couple of years ago when he was starting his business. He's like, you have a lot of balls to do that. I don't know that I could do that because he's in a good position and he's providing for his family. And it just takes a different sort of mindset, just like your husband. Like, it's not in him, and I don't think every type A motivated person is going to feel that, but like stepping into that unknown is like so exciting, and allowing yourself, I think that's huge, allowing yourself to the ability to pivot, but pull back on all your knowledge, like pull back. Everything that we have done in our life is leading up and building the foundation for what we are supposed to do in our future.
100%. Yeah.
I spent 20 years in Hollywood writing and stuff. Am I working in television right now? No, but everything I learned is contributing to what I'm doing now. Everything.
Yeah. And the network and the people that you know. And like, that's another thing is I feel like I've been good at really leveraging who I know and also just getting access to people. So I'll give you an example. Like, I really wanted to go to a really good grad school and I terrible at SATs. I always was in honors classes, got really good grades. I'm a great student because I'm type A. So I will read the books. I will go to class. I will write you a freaking essay like you've never seen before. Like, I'm a good student, but I'm not a good, standardized test taker. And I really wanted to go to like a first-rate university for graduate school. And I knew if I was going in the States, like I would have to take the GRE and I would suck at it. So I was like, why don't I apply to like Oxford and Cambridge? They are arguably two of the best universities in the world. And I was like, why don't I apply to them? I don't have to take the GRE to get into either one of those. So I could go based off my grades. And I had to write like a full research proposal because the master's degrees there are like mini PhDs. And so I applied, I got into Cambridge and ended up graduating with honors. But how I was able to really do this was I reached out to the university, to the department that I was applying to. And I said, is there anybody in your program now that you could connect me with that I could ask a few questions about the program? And they were happy to connect me with people in their program because they want to promote their program. They want me to apply. They want people in it. So they connected me with a couple people, both at Oxford and at Cambridge. And this girl at Oxford was so wonderful and so helpful. She offered to read my research proposal. And I'd never written a research proposal before. What the hell do I know about that? Like I wrote what I thought was like a research proposal. She gave me so much feedback because she's already been in the system. She knows what these colleges are looking for. And she was like, oh, I think you should include, like, she didn't write it for me, But she was like, I think you should include some examples of other people that have written about this topic. You might want to include such and such here. It might be helpful if you thought about adding something about this in here. Like, she gave me such like genius feedback. I incorporated it all into my research proposal. And then like, I got in. Now, is that the only reason I got in? Probably not, but it helped. And again, the point I'm making here is I didn't have these people in my network. I just found a way to connect with them in a way that they could then help me get the thing that I wanted, you know? And I think so often we think, oh, well, I don't know anybody. I don't have a big network. I don't know. How am I going to get there? It's like, be creative and figure out a way to like connect with those people, because people naturally want to help. That's what I found.
Yeah. Always go for the no. That's like what my husband's in sales, and he always says, go for the no. He goes for the no more than he goes for the yes, because he knows it's a numbers game. As many times as you get that no, you know, you're one step closer to that yes. If you just ask. I do that all the time with guests on the podcast. It's like, I get more declines probably than I do acceptances. Yet like I was telling you earlier, I had to go to 2 episodes a week because we have so many guests, wonderful people on the show that I can't just hold on to it for a year and be like, okay, I'll send this out a year later. So it's like you go for the no. It's not relevant. You just have to ask. But even if you do have a big network, a lot of people don't capitalize on it. I've realized, like when I went to USC in California, I went to their journalism school. It's a wonderful journalism school. All the teachers are working professionals. And I took such advantage of my teachers and the people I knew that I had job offers before I graduated. I graduated early because you have to capitalize on the moment. I'm like, okay, I'm dropping this. I'm going here. I'm going to I graduated at least a semester early, maybe a little bit more, so that I could start working with people. And some of the teachers actually became my bosses. And the amount of people that you can connect with. Like, I don't think now we're getting back into type A type talk. Like, this is what you do and this is how you achieve. But I don't think people use their resources wisely sometimes. Yeah. And I've heard that a lot. People go to college for the experience and they'll stay 5 years or whatever. It is who you know, and you need to use these things as stepping stones to really to achieve what you want. And now I feel like I'm now giving a lesson in being a type A.
No. But this actually plays right into one of my mindset shifts, which is to decode your flow, which is my first mindset shift. And it's really like, instead of mastering everything, because so often as type A's, we think we have to master everything. We have to be the best at everything everywhere. Instead of mastering everything, we have to shift to like streamlining processes, asking for help. Use that network to ask for the help. Like, we don't have to be good at everything. People genuinely love to help. They also love to talk about themselves. So let them. Ask them for help. Ask them for their advice. Praise them. Stroke their ego a bit and get the help that you need. Because yes, use your network, but it doesn't mean like always use it to just get what you need. Like, these people are experts in their fields. We don't have to be experts at absolutely everything, because trying to master everything is what drags us down and causes us to burn out. So it's like, how can you use that network? How can you seek out individuals that you may not even know yet to get the help that you need so that you don't have to master that thing, especially something that doesn't even interest you or bring you joy?
Yeah. So how do we start to recognize the signs that we're heading towards burnout?
I mean, there's so many. There is not one particular definition of burnout either. I mean, the World Health Organization has recognized and classified burnout as an occupational hazard. But it can be things like, for health, like trouble sleeping, racing thoughts in the middle of the night. I always feel like sleep is one of the biggest indicators that something's wrong. And it could be an indicator of a lot of things being wrong, but definitely with burnout as well. If you're trouble falling asleep or you wake up in the middle of the night with racing thoughts, that feeling of overwhelm, huge red flag. It can be zoning out during conference calls at work, doing what I call the mouse jiggle, like when you're there at your desk, but you're not really there. So you just sort of like jiggle your mouse every now and then to make sure you're still active on Teams or whatever your company's using, you know? It could be just like forwarding emails on if you're a manager to people on your team to deal with. You think you're delegating, but you're not, you're abdicating. You are just forwarding it on and letting them deal with it. You're not helping them. You're not guiding them, nothing. You know, so there's a few things like that. It could be like unnecessary road rage. You and I are from Southern California. We know all about this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't start your car the second the light turns green, I'm like, boop, courtesy honk. Like, let's go, lady, move it along. You know, like, and just getting upset, snapping at your partner. They seem to be the ones that get the brunt of everything because they're who we live with and we know well and we can be our worst around them. But like, just having real short temper a lot. And these things creep up on you. And that's the hard part is like, when we start gaining weight, it's noticeable. Our pants are a little tighter. Our jacket doesn't quite zip up as well. The arms might be a little tight. Like we know when we're starting to gain weight. But with burnout, it's sneaky and it creeps up on you and you don't often know until it's too late. So we all are affected differently by stress and by being stretched thin. And so it's going to show up in different ways. But if you're isolating yourself, not wanting to hang out with some of your favorite people, or if things just don't feel fun anymore. I remember I had some girlfriends in town for one of their birthdays and I was like out with them one evening and I was just like a zombie. Like my body was there at this event. But my dad always says, there's no there. Like there was nothing happening inside I was just felt like I was a zombie. I was totally numb and just zoned out and not engaged. And as somebody who's really high energy and motivated and like energetic, and that was not me, you know? And so these things can sneak up on you. And I talk about them in my various resources that you can download, but like there's so many warning signs and they're going to look different for everybody, but it's just becoming aware and becoming conscious of them that you can start to feel like, oh, okay, I'm probably getting a little overwhelmed. I'm probably getting a little stretched thin. I'm probably getting a little burnt out. Like, let me dial this back. Let me dial it back a little bit. Let me get myself in check. Maybe go to that yoga class, maybe say no to that event tonight, maybe cancel that meeting. You know, like there are small little adjustments we can make along the way once we're just aware of what some of these warning signs look like.
But what if we're aware and we're not privileged enough that we can't say no to that extra project or we can't say no, you know, like there does come a sense of privilege with being able to take that time to yourself. Like
100%.
What if you have to show up at work or you have to take that meeting, but you still have to be up in the middle of the night with your kid, you know, like the things that like we have to do that
100%.
You know,
and there are absolutely people that are caretakers or that have specific jobs or they don't have the luxury. And so my advice is always, where can you find a win? Where can you get the win? We can all make adjustments in our lives. If it's not professionally, because we don't have the luxury to do that, then where can we take a win personally? I talk about decoding our flow and streamlining like cumbersome processes as one of the mindset shifts. And it could be simple things like the way that your garbage is set up in your kitchen. Is it annoying? Is it janky? Is the drawer stuck and it pisses you off every time the frickin' drawer doesn't open properly? Or like you get something out of the bathroom and there's one cupboard, everything falls down every time you try and get something. Like that's the shit that really stresses you out and like leads to burnout sometimes. Sometimes the most insignificant little things are the things that eat away at your soul and like stress you out. So it's like, where can we make those small adjustments in our personal life? If we can't do it professionally, where can we streamline those things? You know, like, can you just reorganize this cupboard so it's less annoying? Is there a way that you and your partner can talk about something that's stressing you out that you can come to some sort of agreement of, oh, I'll do this if you do that. Or can you help me with this today and I'll help you with that tomorrow? Like, there is always a way. There's always a place where we can find a win and just start with the smallest little wins because those build momentum and it all adds up eventually.
Yeah. I love that. I love the micro steps. I know Britt Frank and I talked about it. She wrote The Science of Stuck about the whole idea of, you know, these micro moves, these micro yeses to allow yourself to build up, because, you know, you're not going to change your habits overnight. These things don't just change. And as type A people, a lot of times we can be like, this is when we're starting and this is what we're going to do. And we are going to commit to changing that. And we can do it. Like, I know I have it in me to be like, okay, I'm doing 2 workouts tomorrow and I'm only eating protein and I'm doing this, but I don't have it in me to make sure that lasts. So it's those micro things to make them true habits that we need to do. So I love that you're saying, just find yourself those micro wins.
Find the win. I mean, I had this hellish travel day the other day trying to get to an event. I'll spare you the details, but it was like one disaster after another. And I got rerouted all over the country. And I ended up getting upgraded to first class on one of the legs. But of course, the flight was like 40 minutes.
The short
it was like,
one.
Of all the flights, it was like 40 minutes. And I was like, I'm so excited. I got upgraded to first class. And when somebody commented, they're like, yeah, on the shortest flight. I was like, listen, I'm going to take the win where I can. I am excited about this. I'm going to enjoy the extra space. I'm going to enjoy the glass of champagne. And I'm going to take this win where I can, you know? So it's like, where can we find the win?
I love it. I love it. So how do we get in touch with you? How do we get your book? And how do we hear you speak?
Yeah, so everything you can find me is erinstafford.com. That's like the hub where you can find all the things. My book, The Type A Trap, is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It was recently on sale on Amazon. I have no control over that, but it still might be on sale. I haven't checked, which is super exciting. And yeah, I speak all over the world. I work with a number of speakers bureaus. You can come to me directly. However, erinstafford.com. You can also find me on social. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, Erin M. Stafford. I would love to connect, and I'm always here to answer questions and help support people however I can.
I love it. Thank you so much, Erin, my fellow San Diegan.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
It was so much fun. Hopefully we get to talk again soon.
Anytime. I'm here. Thanks so much, Courtney.
And that's it for today's Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Erin Stafford, for the great conversation all about being type A, how to combat burnout and find balance in our life. If you want to work with Erin or get her book, I'll put all the information in the show notes below. And as always, you can find Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers and Intentional Media on our website at CourtneyMyers.com. That's where you'll find our books, our courses, and everything else we have going on. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.